Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Hello, I'm today's host, Giovanna Rossini, and I'm here with John Richmond, a trial attorney and co-founder of Richmond Vona, LLC.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Now, John, you and I were just talking before this, and I could clearly hear that you have a passion for what you do. Now, so tell me, what kinds of people do you tend to work with in your practice?
Sure. I mean, look, we work with all different types of people, right? And that's something that we're very proud of is, whether it's with people here within our firm, on our team, and that could be lawyers, case managers, paralegals, it could be marketing professionals, operational professionals, people in technology, or even our clients, right, who come from a very diverse background. We really pride ourselves in learning how to communicate with everybody. And I think that's something that I would just, encourage all business owners or all leaders to really take an interest in and really pay particular attention to, because, we all want, buy-in. We all want accountability. We all want, to be in lockstep with our team, or to be able to, gain the trust of our clients or our customers, and the ability to communicate with them properly and in a way in which they can understand and which builds trust is really important. So, for us, we pride ourselves, whether it's internally or externally, with working with all types of people. And that's what makes it fun, right? It brings diverse backgrounds and ideas to the table. And ultimately, that's what you need to succeed.
Now, from what I understand, your law firm focuses on representing families and individuals who have been affected by things like serious injuries or medical malpractice and wrongful deaths. Is that accurate, would you say?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we take great pride in helping people, at a high level, who are injured due to the negligence of others throughout New York State. And like you said, it could be a car accident, it could be a construction accident or something else. But if it was due to the negligence of others, we have lawyers who specialize in those fields here within our firm.
Yeah, and I can imagine it would be really hard for anyone to get through this without the right lawyer. But so many people find it hard to find that good lawyer. Do you have any stories maybe where someone had a difficult time? Maybe you weren't their first person that they came to, but you were the person who ultimately was able to help them?
Yeah, definitely. And look, I get it. I find myself sometimes like at the gym, and the TVs are off, the sound's off, and I'm looking at all these different commercials of our competitors. And in my humble opinion, it's kind of all the same thing, right? It can be very confusing if you're, somebody, a layperson out in the community, and something unfortunate happens to figure out who should I call, right? I mean, you don't know, because everyone's kind of saying the same thing, like, we'll fight for you, we'll treat you like family, don't get pushed around by insurance companies. So it kind of all blends together. And that's one of the reasons why we take great pride in differentiating ourselves in terms of trying to separate ourselves from the pack and the messages that we deliver, or why we believe or communicate with people why they believe they should put their trust in us. But yeah, we have, look at, there's all the time, we have people who call us and they've been represented by somebody else, and, for whatever reason, and there's a laundry list of them, maybe they're not happy. And we feel, a sense of duty to say, hey, it's up to you what you want to do. We're not going to tell you to fire your law firm, but, if you want to try someone new, these are the things that we stand for. This is how we believe in general. We're different. And then we're very proud of the experience that we deliver to them once they come over. And I think, it's always nice at the end of the case where, it's not you're never looking for a direct comparison to others, because that's not, I don't think, a healthy way to operate. There's a saying, right? Comparison is the thief of joy. So there's really no reason to do that. But it is nice to know that we are delivering a higher level of experience and we're doing what's right by people.
And I'm sure it takes a lot of work to properly build a case. For you, what does it really take to prepare for complex cases like this?
Yeah, sure. So look, there is a ton that goes into it. And I think it's important to remember that preparation for handling a complex case starts long before that client calls you. it's really important to build a firm with a culture of excellence, a culture of precision, a culture that's built on the foundation of systems and processes, that uses the best technology, that embraces artificial intelligence, that rewards its people for going above and beyond for clients, and rewards its team, or expects that its team understands how to handle these complex cases. And it's hiring the right people, right? That's number one, plugging them into this system and getting their feedback to make the system better. But thorough investigations start immediately. They call us. We're prepared to handle these types of cases. We're equipped. We have the resources to go out and spend the money we need to investigate, to get the best experts, to ensure that really, not to sound cheesy, but no stone is left unturned. And you have to really be prepared to do that, because you have to be careful. Again, going back to who you select as your attorneys, any attorney can go out there and advertise. You actually have the experience and, importantly, the resources to investigate, properly prepare, and litigate a complex case. Because, as you can imagine, if it's complex, you're probably calling it complex because there's complex issues, there can be complex liability, and in all likelihood, there are very serious injuries, permanent damages to somebody. So you really have to be equipped and ready to do that. If you're not, you really should bring in a law firm that way.
That's all really wonderful to hear, but I was wondering if you could maybe tell us a specific story of someone that you helped. I understand maybe names, obviously you can't share, but what's a story that you remember fondly because you were able to actually help someone?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot. We're proud of a lot of the people we've helped. But there's always certain people that stick in your mind. Maybe certain people who you, because of the complexity of their case, you developed an even deeper personal relationship with. The first one that comes to mind is, we had started the firm, years ago now, and it was New Year's Eve. Everyone's getting ready to go home for the day and be with their families, and the phone rings, and all of a sudden I'm talking to a woman who was just diagnosed with mesothelioma. She didn't know who to call. Someone had told her to call us. She didn't even think we were going to pick up the phone because of the time of day. And she was sadly exposed to asbestos from laundering her husband's clothes while he worked with asbestos products for many years. And, I worked very closely with her and her husband for about a year and a half. We became very close, spent a lot of time at her house, a lot of time getting to know them. We're able to get a very favorable and large 7-figure settlement for them. And she's one of the very rare people who are diagnosed with mesothelioma and survive. And there's a reason for it that I can't get into, but she survived. She's around to this day. She's still a friend of mine. She's somebody that I keep in touch with. So, those stories stick with you. Those personal connections are really important. And, look, you're always motivated to do your best for people, but there's no question that when you're that close to somebody, there's that little extra, I guess to say umph that goes into prosecuting the case.
Speaking of you talking about this one individual asbestos case, I read that before creating Richmond Vona or Vona.
Yeah,
I feel like I keep mispronouncing that. Is
okay,
that
it's Vona. It's Vona. My partner gets that all the time. It's actually Vona.
Before Richmond Vona, you handled catastrophic injury in asbestos cases at a major law firm in New York City and in Buffalo. Was that a common story for you? Did it happen frequently, it sounds like?
Yeah, unfortunately, if you go back to, the beginning of the 20th century, asbestos was used heavily in industry. It was used in manufacturing facilities, in chemical plants. It was used on naval ships. It actually was an incredible product in the sense that it was so heat resistant and served a lot of different purposes. The problem is the asbestos manufacturers and the companies that manufacture products with asbestos, we can easily prove in many, many ways that they knew about the dangers of asbestos. They knew it would kill people going back to the 1920s, 1930s, and unfortunately decided not to warn anybody. They put profits over people. So because of the heavy amounts of industry in the U.S., especially throughout starting the Industrial Revolution, moving forward, the steel plants, all these types of places, especially up here in Western New York, because of the access to Niagara Falls. Sadly, we see the highest rate of mesothelioma in the country. So we take great pride in representing these men and women who are diagnosed with mesothelioma or lung cancer after being exposed to asbestos, but they're really sad cases. Typically you're going up against companies that knew the entire time. They were bad actors. And unfortunately, mesothelioma is a terminal cancer, and people usually don't survive past a year of diagnosis. So it's a very nuanced type of claim. They're very complex cases, but it's something that we take great pride in here.
Now, from what I've heard, you clearly care. I would like to ask more about how you balance the technical, legal side of your profession with the more human side, because you are representing very sick clients and their families.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, you mentioned something about caring, and I don't care what type of business you're in. If you don't have a passion for what you do, you shouldn't be in that business. That's what's really going to fuel you through the tough times. That's what's going to give you the motivation or the energy to go above and beyond for your customers, your clients, regardless of what industry you're in. But yeah, look, I mean, with our clients, it's our job to make sure that the process is transparent, that there's high level communication, that they always know what's going on, but that we're taking the time to communicate and explain it in a way that they can understand, right? Because at the end of the day, it's our job to provide the strategy, to get them through this, to get them the best result possible. But it's also our job to present decisions and say, hey, an example would be, hey, this company who's responsible for your injury or your illness is offering X amount of money. And they say, this is the most they're going to offer right now, or they lie and they say it's the most they're ever going to offer. Let me explain to you, what your options are, what it would look like if you accepted the settlement. And let's talk about what the journey would look like if we continue to push forward and head into a trial, and explain the risk, explain the reward, kind of really explain it, thoroughly in ways that they can understand, so that they can ultimately make the best decision. And a lot of times, of course, are asking, well, what would you do? And, we, obviously we'll tell them under their circumstances and based on what their fears, apprehensions, or concerns are, this is what we would do. But ultimately it's up to them. But you have to explain it clearly. And it goes back to like your first meeting with the client. You got to build the trust, right? Because no matter how clearly you explain something, if people don't trust you, why would they listen?
Okay. Now, what happens if, say, your client first calls you? The first time they reach out to ask for help, what are the first 2 or 3 things you say or ask them?
Sure. I mean, first off, we know before, when that phone is ringing and you're getting on the phone with that potential client for the first time, it's not easy for them to call us. They don't want to be calling us. No one wants to be working with us. They're scared. They're probably going through the worst time in their life. They're worried about money. They're worried about their health. They're worried about their family. So the first thing we do is assure them that they've called the right place. Hey, this is all we do all day, every day. You called the right place. We are going to help you. The second thing we do is express a sense of urgency, not a pushy, hey, hurry up and sign with us. It's a, hey, we're here to get started and to help you as quickly as possible, or go as fast as you want us to go, because we know how important it is to get going, and we know how important it is for us to take all of this off your plate. So you're not dealing with insurance companies. You're not searching for the best doctors. You're not worrying about money or how you're going to put food on the table. We take care of everything right away. So all you have to do is focus on healing. So I think the biggest thing out the gate is to make sure they know, hey, you called the right place. There's a sense of urgency to help. And we'll do whatever we can to go above and beyond for you. And of course, answer all their questions.
Of course. Now, these are all the things they can expect if they were to call you. But are there any red flags that people should look out for when they're looking for someone like you to defend them or to fight for them?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, the things I always tell people is like, look, I mean, you're going to choose whoever you want to choose. We hope it's us, but here are the things that you should consider regardless of who you choose. And of course, that's the choice is personal. So you got to, figure out what's best for you. But I mean, number one, you should be able to reach your firm, like this firm, at all times. If they're not picking up the phone, if they're not expressing urgency to help you, if they're telling you, oh, hey, give me a little bit of information, we'll have somebody call you back, that should be the biggest red flag. You should run away. Because, any firm that does this for real, that is serious about helping people, is available 24/7, takes these matters seriously, and is ready to help you right away, right? There should be no delay. I'd also just, tell people, make sure that you're asking a lot of questions. Ask questions like, how do you pick which attorney is being assigned my case? Like, how long will this take? How many cases does each attorney handle on average? Like, what's the communication style like? How is your business run? How can I be assured that I'm going to get the highest level of service? Just ask any question you can possibly think of. And if they show you any frustration or any pushback, move on. If anyone's trying to be pushy, move on. Really, the law firm works for you. Ask the right questions, make sure it's someone you feel comfortable with, make sure that they're aligned with your values, and your communication style, and then make the best decision for you and your family.
That makes sense. And of course, personal values are really important, like to make sure that you and the law firm are aligned.
For sure.
Along that thought process, I'm curious, have you ever had to decline a case to make sure that you were upholding your values?
Oh yeah, for sure. Look, might be an unpopular opinion, but there's a saying that the customer is always right. I don't totally subscribe to that, to be honest. And so internally we have a rule that no one's going to be abused at our firm. So if we have a client who's verbally abusive to one of our team members, I don't care how big the case is. Look, sometimes someone's going through something stressful. You talk to them, they apologize, and they never talk like that again. Okay, everyone makes mistakes. We get it. But if there's going to be a pattern, we're going to drop the case. They won't owe us anything. They're not going to have to pay us fees. They're not going to have to pay us any of our expenses back. But we're going to drop the case and say, hey, politely, you're not the right client for us. Please go find somebody else. Same with, this happens once in a while. We sign on the case. Everything seems to check all the boxes. We look into the background of our client and we find out that they have a criminal record, and it could be, in particular, maybe they did something that we seriously or that seriously goes against our values and who we are, and we're just going to politely decline because, our people need to want to go above and beyond for our clients. And if there's something particularly, I guess, I don't want to say bad, but there's something about the client that just really does not align with how we treat people or with our values, and we're not the right fit.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And I love what you were saying about not liking the customer is always right mentality.
Yeah.
I believe that the full phrase was supposed to be the customer is always right in matters of taste.
Yeah.
In other words, they know exactly what they want and they're correct in what they want. Yep. That does not mean that they are right about everything.
Yeah, look, even sometimes too, right? Sometimes just it could be a great person, right? There's no criminal background. They're polite people, but we're just never going to be able to make them happy, right? There's times where, look, we get it. Like, what happened to the person is serious, and in their mind, it's the most important thing in the world, as it should be. And we may be able to tell them, like, hey, we feel very strongly the most we would ever be able to get you is X. And that's because maybe that's all the insurance has, or we just understand how these cases are valued. And no matter how hard we fight, we're not going to be able to get any more. We're not going to be able to get what you want. So if the goals aren't aligned and we can't make them happy, we want them to know from the beginning so they're not upset down the road, and they can maybe try to find somebody who maybe can make them happy.
All right. That all is very insightful, and I love talking about this with you. But I've heard supposedly that you run something called the Angles podcast, where people are more interested in anything else you have to say. Maybe they should take a look there.
Yeah, look, the foundation of the podcast was I always tell people, I think one of the best value or trait that anybody could have, whether you're running a business or you want to grow in your career, is to be intensely curious. Because I think if you're a really, really, really curious person, you love to learn, you take getting better very seriously, you're going to be a hard worker. You're going to be detail oriented. I mean, all these other things are going to fall into place, and you're probably going to be successful. And so we started the podcast to bring on interesting, successful people from all different walks of life, all different industries, so that, you know, our demographic or our target audience or our community here can learn from these different people and hopefully realize that sometimes your greatest lessons will come from people totally outside of your industry or people you never expect. And also you can recognize the common themes associated with successful people, regardless of what industry they're in. So it's been a lot of fun. You can check out Angles with John Richmond on YouTube or on social media and all the, you know, the appropriate handles, but it's been a lot of fun. We learn a lot, and it's just something, a little cherry on top that we do here.
Honestly, I am curious now. Is there one little piece of advice? Like, what was your one favorite piece of advice that someone unrelated to your industry gave you, and how did it impact you?
Well, I'll answer it this way. I'll say that no matter who you are, so you're a professional football player, professional hockey player, you're a celebrity chef, you're a CEO, you're a famous rapper. We've had all those different types of people on. The one common thread for sure, the number one, is passion. And they all have an intense passion for what they do. And that is what fueled them through the hard times, to continue to build, to continue to grow, to continue to push the envelope, to not quit when the easy thing would have been to quit, to take risks when others wouldn't have. It's the passion and whatever that passion is, but that's really what gets people through things. And that's why I said earlier, if you don't have the passion for what you're doing, you should pick something that you do.
Well, thank you for coming here today, John.
Thank you so much for having me.
We really enjoyed having you. Is there anything else you would like to say before we part ways? Maybe another way that people could reach out to you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn at John Richmond. I mean, you'll see me. My social media handles are all John Richmond Law. Always happy to connect with others, whether you're a business owner, a leader, or just an aspiring leader in your field. I love sharing information, sharing ideas. So reach out if you'd like to have a conversation.
All right. Well, thank you again, John.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.